It wasn't the screaming or the slammed doors or the broken dishes that got to me. No, the moment everything changed came much later, when it was all quiet. When it was over. When the silence between us was so thick, I could feel it in my bones. You know that feeling when your life seems like it's running on autopilot, and you're just going along with emotions, and suddenly, you realize you don't know where the autopilot is taking you anymore? Yeah, that's when it all started for me. The day my life fell apart wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some grand revelation or an explosive confrontation. No, it started like any other day. I was coming home from work, not expecting anything out of the ordinary. I had no idea that something had shifted so drastically that my entire understanding of the past few years was about to come crumbling down. But as I pulled up to the apartment complex, something felt off. I remember walking up to the door and seeing the mail stacked in the hallway. The bills, the advertisements, all piled up in the corner. Nothing out of place. It was when I opened the door that I felt it. The air in the apartment had changed. Not in a way that's noticeable at first, but in a way that made everything feel heavier. Like when you walk into a room and suddenly realize someone has been there before you, even though you were alone. The silence was unsettling. Normally, Claire would be at home when I came in. The faint sound of the TV or the hum of her phone's notifications would greet me. But that day, there was nothing. I called out to her, no response. I walked through the apartment, checking every room, but there was no trace of her. At first, I thought she was just out. It wasn't uncommon for her to go to the gym or take a walk after work. But something about the absence felt different. I went into the kitchen, made myself a cup of coffee, and sat down. The clock on the wall ticked, and for a moment, I felt like I was waiting for something that I couldn't quite place. I picked up my phone. Nothing unusual. Messages from friends, the usual work updates, nothing urgent. But then, a notification popped up. A text from Claire. She had texted me earlier in the day, but I hadn't checked it yet. Hey, I'm going to be late tonight. I'll be home around 10. Don't wait up. That text seemed innocent enough. Except it wasn't. There was something about the way she phrased it, something that didn't sit right. It wasn't like her to be so distant. We didn't really have a schedule, and she never sent messages like that unless something was off. I ran my thumb over the screen, staring at the message. I knew at that moment that this wasn't just a late work night or a random plan with friends. I just didn't know what it was yet. I didn't think much of it at first, but something inside me was gnawing at me. That voice in the back of my head, the one that asks, what if? A few hours later, she still wasn't home. 10 p.m. came and went. I was starting to get frustrated, but still, I didn't think much of it. I told myself it was just a busy night for her, and I tried to focus on other things. The problem was that I couldn't focus. I kept checking the time. 11 p.m. came. Still nothing. I sent her a message. Hey, what's going on? Are you okay? There was no immediate response. So I called. It rang. It went to voicemail. That's when the first knot in my stomach tightened. I wasn't the type to get paranoid. I was logical. But when I tried calling again, the voicemail picked up faster than usual. Something was wrong. I wasn't sure what it was, but I knew something had shifted. I waited another hour. By now, I was pacing. I couldn't sit still. My thoughts were racing, jumping from one possibility to another. Could something have happened to her? But why wouldn't she pick up? Why hadn't she called me? She always did. I was starting to feel like I was just being stupid. Maybe she was just caught up with something. But deep down, I couldn't shake that feeling. Around 1:15 a.m., I grabbed my jacket and keys. I couldn't wait any longer. I had to go out, find her, see if she was okay. Maybe she had been in an accident. Maybe her phone had died. I told myself I wasn't overreacting. But as I got into the car and drove toward the area where she usually hung out after work, I realized I wasn't just worried. I was scared. I didn't know what I was afraid of, but I felt it in the pit of my stomach. I drove past the usual spots, her gym, her favorite coffee shop, the bar we'd visited on weekends. Nothing. No sign of her car anywhere. But then, at the last place I would have expected, I saw her car. The familiar black sedan parked outside a bar that we never went to. I stopped the car, my heart thumping in my chest. This wasn't supposed to be happening. I wasn't supposed to be here, watching her car parked outside this bar at 1:30 a.m. It wasn't a place we went to. Hell, I hadn't even known she liked it. I parked a few spaces down and sat there. I didn't know what I was waiting for, or what I was even hoping for. I could feel the tension building inside me. The kind of tension that makes you want to scream, but you're too stunned to do anything but watch. And then, there she was. Claire stepped out of the bar, laughing with a man I didn't recognize. My heart dropped into my stomach. I could barely breathe. I sat there in my car, staring at Claire. She was laughing, her smile wide and genuine. But it wasn't at me. It wasn't for me. That laugh, the way she was looking at him, it was like I was invisible. The man beside her wasn't anyone I recognized. I had seen every one of her friends, every one of her colleagues, every person in her life. But this guy? I had no clue who he was. He was tall, wearing a dark jacket, and they were standing way too close. It wasn't just a casual, we bumped into each other kind of thing. No, it was something more. They were together, in a way I didn't recognize her with. My mind raced, each thought crashing into the other. What the hell is happening? I could feel the anger rising in me, but I also felt something else, something deeper, more primal. It was the ache of betrayal. I watched them walk toward the entrance of the bar. My body felt like it was frozen in place, unable to move. But every part of me wanted to run inside, to confront them both, to scream. I should have followed them. I should have confronted her right then and there. But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling like an outsider in my own life, wondering how everything had come to this. I don't know how long I stayed in the car, but by the time I came to my senses, I was parked a few blocks down, looking at the bar from a distance. They hadn't come out yet. The silence in my car was deafening. Every time I thought I might leave, the image of Claire laughing with that man kept flashing in my mind. It was like I couldn't escape it. My heart was pounding in my chest, my thoughts spiraling. I wanted to run in there, drag her out, and ask her what the hell was going on. But I knew I had to be smarter than that. If I confronted her now, she'd deny everything. She'd lie, like she always did. So, I sat there, hoping for something. I don't know what. Maybe I was waiting for her to come out and explain herself. But she didn't. By the time they left the bar, it was nearly 3 a.m. I watched them leave, Claire's arm draped casually around his shoulder. It was like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just some misunderstanding. This was real. This was happening. And I had no idea how long it had been going on. I started the car and drove home. I didn't speak to her when I walked in. She was already there, sitting on the couch, her phone in hand, completely oblivious to what had just happened. The silence between us that night was suffocating. I was so angry, I couldn't even look at her. But she acted like nothing was wrong. She smiled at me, asked how my day was, as if I hadn't just seen her with another man. I couldn't take it. I couldn't pretend everything was fine. "Claire," I said, my voice low, "who was that guy?" Her eyes widened, just slightly, but she didn't skip a beat. "What guy?" she asked, almost too casually. I didn't answer. I just stared at her. She knew. I knew she knew. The way her lips trembled, the slight hesitation before she spoke, it was clear as day. She was lying. I could feel it in my gut, but I wasn't going to make it easy for her. She tried to change the subject, but I wouldn't let her. I couldn't. "I saw you with him. At the bar. Who is he?" Her face dropped. She didn't speak for a moment, and in that moment, I saw the truth. The guilt. The shame. It was written all over her face. Finally, she sighed and looked away. "He's just a friend," she muttered, her voice barely audible. "A friend?" I almost laughed. Just a friend? The way they were leaning into each other, the way he touched her arm. There was no way. "Claire, I'm not stupid," I said, my voice tight with restraint. "Don't lie to me. Who is he? Really?" Her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the kind of tears I expected. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't regret. It was the kind of tears that come when someone's cornered, when they realize they can't lie their way out of the truth anymore. "He's someone I've been seeing for a while now," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry." Those words hit me like a physical blow. Sorry. That's all she had to say. After everything we'd been through, after everything I'd done for her, all she could say was sorry. My mind was spinning, my blood was boiling. I wanted to scream at her, to throw something, to make her feel the pain that I was feeling. But I didn't. Instead, I stood up and walked out of the room. I couldn't look at her anymore. I didn't want to hear her apologies. I didn't want to hear anything she had to say. Everything felt empty, like a hollow shell of the life we'd built together. And as I walked out of the apartment and into the cold night air, I realized something. This wasn't just the end of a relationship. This was the end of everything I thought I knew. I spent the next few days in a haze, not knowing what to do, where to go, or how to move forward. Claire was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The apartment felt different now. It felt wrong. It felt empty. I didn't want to go back there, but I didn't want to leave either. I was stuck. And then, a week later, she reached out. It wasn't a call or a text, but a letter. A physical letter, which seemed so out of place in this digital world we lived in. It was postmarked with the date she'd sent it, and when I opened it, I found something unexpected. The words she wrote shook me to my core. The letter felt heavier than it should have, the paper too crisp between my fingers as I unfolded it. It wasn't just a simple apology or an attempt to justify her actions. No, this was something different. The words on the page felt like a message from someone I didn't know, someone I thought I knew, but clearly didn't. Claire's handwriting was neat, deliberate, as if she'd spent hours composing it, choosing her words carefully, as though she knew this letter would be the final piece of our shattered relationship. The first few lines were expected, filled with guilt, remorse, and attempts to explain her actions. But then, halfway through, the tone shifted. She wrote that she had been unhappy for months, that the distance between us had been growing, and that she tried to reach out to me in subtle ways, small hints, indirect comments. But I hadn't picked up on any of them. She had even tried to push me away, she said, because deep down, she knew she was already emotionally invested in someone else. But instead of talking to me about it, she chose to act on it. At first, I thought I could dismiss it. Everyone has their excuses, right? But as I kept reading, something in her words hit harder than anything before. She confessed that the affair had started long before I ever noticed. It wasn't just a brief fling, it had been a real relationship, with someone I would never have suspected, someone she worked with. She admitted that she had lied to me, to my face, for months. That night at the bar wasn't just a random encounter, it was planned. She had been seeing him for weeks, hiding it from me, all while pretending everything was fine at home. My heart dropped as I read those words. She had been living a double life, and I had no idea. But the most shocking part of the letter came at the very end. She wrote that she needed to tell me something that would explain everything, something that would change how I saw the entire situation. And then, she signed it, but not before adding one last sentence. Markus, I didn't just cheat on you with him. I cheated on you with someone else, too. I sat there, the letter in my hands, unable to breathe. What the hell did that mean? How could she have kept this from me? How could I have been so blind? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this wasn't just about the affair, it was about something deeper, something darker. The shock of her confession hit me in waves, but there was no time to process it. I needed to know who this someone else was. The letter didn't say. It didn't give me any more details, just a cryptic hint that left my mind racing. Was there someone else besides this man from work? Was it another secret relationship, or something even worse? I could feel the pieces of my life, my reality, crumbling further with each passing second. How could everything have been so wrong? How could Claire have been so different from the woman I thought I knew? I kept thinking back to all the times I had trusted her, all the times I had defended her when others questioned her behavior. How could I have been so blind to it all? But there was no time to dwell on that now. I had to confront her. I had to get the answers. I couldn't let her leave me with these questions. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went to her apartment. To face her. To find out the truth, once and for all. As I stood outside her door, my hand trembling on the doorknob, I didn't know what to expect. Would she be there, ready to explain everything? Or would she deny it all, like she had denied everything else? Part of me wanted to walk away. I wasn't sure if I could handle what was about to unfold. But the door opened, and there she was, standing in front of me. The woman I thought I knew. The woman who had betrayed me in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. And the first thing she said? Markus, I didn't want you to find out this way. I stood there in the hallway, unable to move. Claire's words hung in the air between us, thick with guilt and hesitation. It felt like the world had stopped. The apartment felt colder now, even though it was the same place I had shared so many memories with her. I didn't know what to say. I was angry, confused, and somehow still hoping that this was all a mistake, a misunderstanding. But the look in her eyes told me it wasn't. Claire, I finally managed, my voice hoarse. What are you talking about? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you let this go on for so long? She stepped aside, motioning for me to come in. I hesitated, but the desire for answers pushed me forward. As I entered, I felt the weight of the silence pressing down on me, as if the apartment itself knew everything had changed. Claire led me to the couch, but neither of us sat down. She paced, her fingers running through her hair as she struggled to find the right words. I never meant for it to get this far, she started. I didn't plan any of this. It just happened. And then it was too late. I crossed my arms, trying to control the frustration bubbling inside me. It just happened? That's your excuse? Claire, you had a choice every single day. You could have talked to me. You could have told me you were unhappy. But instead, you chose to lie to me. To both of us. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly, almost angrily. You don't understand. I was afraid. I felt trapped. She paused, her voice shaking. I couldn't stand how distant we had become. I didn't know how to fix it. So I found someone else. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. So, you turned to someone else instead of talking to me? Is that how you solve problems? She flinched at my words, but I couldn't hold back. I didn't cheat because I wanted to, she continued, her voice soft but steady. I did it because I felt like I had no other choice. You were always so busy, Markus. So wrapped up in your own world. I tried to reach out, but you didn't hear me. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Had I been so blind? Had I really ignored the signs? I thought I had been doing everything right, working hard, being there for her, but maybe I had been so focused on the wrong things. It wasn't just her fault. It never was. I stood up abruptly, needing space. So what now, Claire? What happens after all this? Are you just going to keep telling me that I wasn't enough? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a deep breath, as though trying to find the strength to say the next part. There's more. There's something else I need to tell you. Something I've been keeping from you for a long time. I turned back to her, my heart pounding. My mind raced through the possibilities. What could be worse than what I already knew? I don't want you to hate me, Markus, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. But the other man, it wasn't just him. I was seeing someone else, too. Another person. A completely different person. I froze. My mind refused to process her words. What? I asked, almost laughing at the absurdity of it. You were seeing two people behind my back? She nodded, the guilt written all over her face. I didn't plan it. But when I started the affair with Jason, I thought it was just an escape. But then there was Eric, and I didn't know how to stop. I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't leave them. And I couldn't leave you either. It was wrong, but I felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. I couldn't speak. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a complete unraveling of everything I thought I knew. How could she juggle two relationships? How could she look me in the eyes every day while living two lives? She saw my disbelief and took a step closer. I never meant to hurt you, Markus. But I know I did. And I have no excuse for it. All I can do is tell you the truth now, no matter how late it is. The truth. I shook my head, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and something else I couldn't place. She had been lying to me, living a life I wasn't even part of, and yet here she was, asking for my understanding. I didn't know if I could give her that. I took a deep breath, trying to control the overwhelming urge to yell. You didn't just cheat on me, Claire. You destroyed everything. And now you want me to understand? Want me to forgive you? Her eyes softened. I don't expect forgiveness, Markus. I don't think I deserve it. But I want you to know everything. I don't want any more secrets between us. The words stung, and for a moment, I didn't know what to say. My mind was still processing the bombshell she had just dropped. Two affairs. How had I not seen it? How had I been so blind? I don't know what to do with all this, Claire, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I thought I knew who you were. I know, she replied. I know I've broken you. I just want you to understand why it happened. Not to justify it, but to explain it. I could feel the walls around me closing in. What had once been a relationship built on trust was now just a pile of broken pieces. Could I ever put them back together? But before I could respond, she added, Markus, there's one more thing. The weight of Claire's words hung in the air like an unbearable fog. One more thing? My mind couldn't process what she was about to say. I'd already been hit with so much, and yet here she was, standing in front of me, as if she had one last bombshell to drop. I stared at her, feeling the pit in my stomach grow deeper. What could possibly be left, Claire? I asked, my voice strained. How much worse can this get? She seemed to hesitate, unsure if she should say what was on her mind. Her hands fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve, her eyes avoiding mine. I could tell this wasn't easy for her. But at this point, nothing felt easy anymore. Markus, she began slowly, her voice trembling. The two affairs weren't the worst part. The worst part was what happened after we broke up. I blinked, my brain struggling to keep up with the conversation. What do you mean? We broke up months ago. What's happened since then? Claire took a deep breath and finally looked me in the eyes. After we split, I thought I was free. I thought I could finally be with Jason. But things weren't what I expected. I felt lost, confused. And then I did something I never thought I would do. My heart raced in anticipation, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want her to keep unraveling this twisted web of lies. But I couldn't stop myself from asking, "What did you do, Claire?" Her voice was barely a whisper when she spoke next. "I reached out to someone else. Someone you know." My head spun. Someone I knew? Who could that be? Had she really gone to that extent? It felt like she was trying to drag me deeper into the darkness she had created. I felt a cold shiver run through me. Who? I managed to ask, my voice shaking with a mix of dread and curiosity. Claire took another breath, her face pale. "It was Ethan, your best friend." The world seemed to stop for a second. My blood ran cold, and I felt like I was about to fall through the floor. Ethan? My best friend? The guy I had trusted with everything? The guy I had shared my thoughts, my fears, my life with? I couldn't believe it. My brain refused to accept what she was saying. But her expression told me it was true. The betrayal wasn't just from Claire, it was from Ethan too. "I don't even know how it happened," she continued, her voice barely audible. "After the breakup, I felt so empty, so alone. Ethan reached out to me, just to check in. And one thing led to another. The thought of my best friend, being involved with Claire made my chest tighten. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "No," I said, shaking my head in disbelief. "This can't be happening. Not Ethan. Not my friend." "I know," Claire whispered. "I can't believe it either. But we ended up talking, and then, well, things happened." The room felt like it was closing in on me. Claire's words had shattered any remaining trust one had in both of them. My mind couldn't comprehend the depth of what had happened. Ethan, the guy who had been by my side for years, had crossed the ultimate line. And Claire, my wife, had let it happen. "I don't even know what to say to you right now," I muttered, taking a step back, trying to find some distance, trying to escape this nightmare. "I thought I could trust both of you." Her eyes filled with tears again, but they didn't move me. I was too numb to feel anything. "I never wanted to hurt you, Markus. I never thought it would go this far. I was just lost. I didn't know what I was doing anymore." "Lost," I repeated, the word like acid on my tongue. "You were lost? You don't cheat on someone because you're lost. You don't betray someone like that. Not when you love them." Claire opened her mouth to say something, but I couldn't hear it. I couldn't take it anymore. My mind was screaming, but my body felt like it was moving in slow motion. How had I let this happen? How had I been so blind to all of it? "Markus," she said softly, her voice breaking through my thoughts. "I'm so sorry. I know I've destroyed everything, but I need you to understand. This wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about Jason or Ethan. This is about my own mistakes, my own failures. And now, I have to live with that." I stared at her, feeling empty. I didn't know what else to say. There was nothing left to fix. No words could heal the damage done. What was once a life I knew and trusted had crumbled into dust, and I was left holding the remnants, unable to put them back together. And just when I thought I couldn't hear anything more, Claire added, "I need to tell you one last thing." I took a step back, almost feeling like the room was spinning. My mind couldn't catch up with what Claire was saying. She had already ripped apart everything I thought I knew, everything I had trusted, so what more could she possibly add? But the way she said it, the way she looked at me, I knew there was more. I felt my chest tighten, my heart racing. "What now, Claire?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What could you possibly say that would change anything?" Her eyes softened, but there was a deep sadness in them that I couldn't ignore. She seemed to hesitate, as if deciding whether or not she should say the next part. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and filled with regret. "I didn't want to tell you this," she started, her hands trembling slightly. "But after everything that's happened, you deserve to know the truth about why I did it, why I did all of it." I looked at her, my patience running thin. She had broken me, torn apart everything we had built, and now she was talking about reasons? About why? It didn't matter anymore. Nothing mattered. But, still, I couldn't stop myself from wanting to know. Fine, I said, my voice cold. Tell me. Tell me everything. Claire took a deep breath, her eyes avoiding mine for a moment before she finally looked up at me. It wasn't just about me feeling lost. That's part of it, yes. But there's something more you don't know. Something that happened before everything went wrong. She paused again, her breath shaky. Before we even started dating, I had another relationship. It was before you, Markus. And I thought I was over it, I really did. But I wasn't. I frowned, completely thrown off by the unexpected turn. What do you mean? I asked, confused. What's that got to do with all of this? Her eyes filled with pain. The man I was with before you, he never truly left me. I didn't realize it at first, but the emotional attachment, the way I still thought about him, it was always there. And when things started going bad between us, when I felt like I couldn't talk to you, I went back to him. My heart stopped. You went back to him? I repeated, barely able to understand what she was saying. You cheated on me with him? The guy before me? Claire nodded slowly, her voice barely a whisper now. Yes, I didn't plan it, I swear. But when I needed someone to talk to, when I felt like I was drowning, I reached out to him. And then it just happened. One moment, I was crying, and the next, I was kissing him. And I didn't stop. I kept seeing him in secret, Markus. That's when everything with Jason and Ethan started. It felt like the ground had just been pulled out from under me. The betrayal ran deeper than I could ever have imagined. It wasn't just a single affair. It was a cycle of lies, of emotional manipulation, of things I didn't even know about. It wasn't just that she cheated. It was the fact that she had been carrying this weight around for years. That she had been emotionally tied to someone else while I had been giving her everything I had. I wanted to yell, to scream at her for the pain she had caused. But instead, I stood there, frozen, not knowing what to say. Markus, she continued, her voice cracking. I've been carrying this for so long. And I know it's too late. I know you'll never look at me the same way again. But I need you to understand. I didn't cheat because I wanted to hurt you. I did it because I didn't know how to fix what was broken in me. And now, I've lost everything. I shook my head, fighting back the rush of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. No, I said firmly, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. You didn't just lose everything, Claire. You gave it away. You chose to destroy what we had. You chose to betray me, not once, but over and over. And now, here you are, asking for understanding, asking for forgiveness. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. I don't expect forgiveness, Markus. I just wanted you to know the truth. Because you deserve to know. I've been lying to you for so long, and I couldn't keep hiding it. I couldn't pretend anymore. I felt the rage build inside me, but it wasn't just anger anymore. It was a mix of sorrow, disbelief, and something else, something darker. The realization that the woman I loved had been deceiving me for so long was suffocating. I can't do this anymore, I said, my voice low but firm. I don't even know who you are anymore. I turned to leave, but before I reached the door, Claire's voice stopped me. Markus, she whispered, please don't leave like this. Please, we need to talk about it. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I stepped out of the apartment, closing the door behind me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I took a deep breath. I had to walk away. I had to find a way to put this behind me, because nothing would ever be the same again. I didn't look back. Not once. The air outside was crisp, but it felt heavy, suffocating. It wasn't just the weight of the conversation that had left me reeling. It was everything she had said, everything I thought I understood about our relationship. I didn't know who she was anymore. The woman I loved seemed to have disappeared, replaced by someone I could no longer recognize. As I walked aimlessly through the streets, my mind kept racing. Claire's words kept echoing in my head. The man she had been with before me. The affairs with Jason and Ethan. I felt like I had been living in a lie for years, and I was only just now waking up to the truth. I went to the bar, a place I used to frequent with friends, trying to drown the noise in my head. But it didn't help. Nothing helped. I found a corner booth, sat down, and ordered a drink, hoping the alcohol would somehow make the pain more manageable. But the more I drank, the clearer it became. There was no escaping it. No way to forget what I had just learned. The betrayal wasn't just about cheating. It was about how she had torn apart the very foundation of everything I believed in. I trusted her. I trusted both of them. Hours passed, and the world seemed to blur around me. But one thing became painfully clear. I couldn't move forward without confronting everything, without knowing everything. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the contacts. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I was ready to face him. But there it was, Ethan's name. I hadn't spoken to him since the breakup. We had been friends for so long, and I had never questioned our bond. Until now. I hit the dial button before I could talk myself out of it. The phone rang, and I could feel my pulse racing. Hello. Ethan's voice came through the receiver, calm, almost casual. It felt like a punch to the gut. What the hell happened, Ethan? I asked, the words coming out in a rush. How could you do this to me? To us? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Markus. No. I cut him off. Don't you dare try to explain it. You slept with my wife. You betrayed me. How could you do that? I never wanted to hurt you, man. Ethan said, his voice strained. It wasn't like that. I was just trying to help her. She was going through a tough time. And I don't know. It just happened. Just happened? You're telling me you just slipped into bed with her because she was going through a tough time? You're pathetic. I could hear him exhale sharply. Markus, listen. I know I messed up. I know I was wrong, but I wasn't the only one to blame. Claire was the one who came to me first. She needed someone. I thought we could figure it out, and then things just went too far. I felt my blood boil. She came to him first? The idea of it made me sick. They had betrayed me together, two people I trusted with my life. I never thought it would get this bad, man. Ethan continued. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'm sorry. For everything. Sorry? That's all you've got? I laughed bitterly, shaking my head even though he couldn't see me. You both ruined everything, Ethan. My marriage, my trust. And now all I get is your pathetic apology? He didn't respond right away. I could tell he was trying to find the right words. Markus, he said finally, his voice quieter now. I was wrong. I get it. I should have never crossed that line, and I should have been there for you, like a friend should. But I can't undo what's been done. I could feel my anger rising again, but I kept it under control. I had to. The last thing I wanted was to let him off the hook by losing my temper. You can't undo it. You're right about that, I said coldly. But you could have told me. You could have come clean instead of lying. Instead of making me the last to know. He sighed heavily. I know. I regret that. I'm sorry, Markus. I didn't know what else to say to him. What could I say? I'll talk to you later, I muttered, ending the call abruptly. My mind was spinning. I needed to think. I needed space to process everything I'd just heard. I sat back in the booth, staring at my phone, my thoughts racing. I had always considered Ethan a brother. He was the guy I trusted with my secrets, my fears, the person I thought would have my back no matter what. And now, he was just another person who had betrayed me. I thought about calling Claire, confronting her again. But what would be the point? What more could she possibly say? I felt like I had already heard it all. I paid my tab and left the bar, walking aimlessly down the street. The city around me felt alien, distant. The noise, the lights, it all seemed so insignificant. I needed to find out more. I needed to know everything. There were still pieces of the puzzle missing. And no matter how hard it was, I knew I couldn't walk away until I had those pieces. It had been a long, exhausting night. The weight of everything I'd discovered, everything that had happened over the last few months, was finally starting to settle in. I had been betrayed by the two people I trusted most. My life had been upended, and the world I thought I knew had crumbled. But as the days passed, something began to shift inside me. I realized that I had spent too much time dwelling on the pain, the betrayal, the hurt. I couldn't keep carrying this weight forever. There were parts of me that had been broken, pieces of my trust, my sense of self, my confidence, but I was starting to see that I didn't need to hold on to them anymore. I didn't need to hold on to Claire or Ethan or any of the things that had torn me apart. One morning, I woke up feeling different. It wasn't a magical realization or a sudden rush of clarity. It was more like a quiet understanding, a small spark of hope that things could get better. It wasn't going to be easy, but I didn't have to let this define me. I started taking small steps. I reached out to old friends I hadn't spoken to in months. I began doing things that made me happy again. Going for runs in the park, reading books I hadn't touched in years, watching the shows I used to love. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt like I was reclaiming parts of myself that had been lost in the chaos. And then, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, I received a message from Claire. I hesitated at first, unsure of what to expect, but something inside me told me to open it. Markus, it started. I know you probably hate me right now, and I can't blame you for that. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to say that I'm truly sorry for everything I've done. I know that I've broken your trust and hurt you in ways I'll never be able to fix. But I've been doing a lot of soul searching, and I want to change. I want to be better, not for you, but for myself. I hope you can eventually find peace, even if that means without me. I read her message several times, each time feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. It wasn't about forgiveness, at least, not yet. But there was something in her words that made me realize I wasn't the only one hurting. Claire had been lost, too. She had made horrible decisions, but she was trying to make amends in her own way. I took a deep breath and put the phone down. It wasn't about fixing everything overnight, but it was about moving forward, one step at a time. A week later, I bumped into Ethan. We didn't plan it. I was walking down the street, lost in my thoughts, when I saw him. For a moment, neither of us knew what to say. He was the last person I ever expected to run into, especially not like this. But as we stood there in silence, he spoke first. I don't expect you to forgive me, Markus, he said, his voice sincere. But I've been thinking a lot about what happened. I made a huge mistake, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I'm sorry. I don't know how to make it right, but I want to try. I looked at him for a long moment. The anger was still there, but it wasn't as sharp as it had been before. I could feel that part of me, part of the pain, starting to soften. I appreciate you saying that, I replied quietly. It's not easy for either of us, but maybe one day, we can both move on from this. He nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a small weight lift from my shoulders. Months passed. I focused on rebuilding my life, piece by piece. It wasn't about rushing through the pain or pretending like everything was fine. It was about finding balance, learning to trust myself again, and slowly healing from the wounds that had cut so deep. And then, one day, out of the blue, I received a text from Claire. She asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. It wasn't about reconciliation, and I wasn't sure what I was hoping for. But I agreed. We sat in a small cafe, the silence between us comfortable, almost peaceful. I know things will never be the same between us, Claire said, her voice softer than I remembered. But I hope that, one day, you'll look back and remember the good things we had. I don't want you to remember me for the mistakes. I want you to remember me for the love we once shared. I didn't know what to say at first, but then I realized something. The past wasn't going to define me anymore. I wasn't going to carry this weight forever. I could move on, not for anyone else, but for myself. I'll remember the good things, I said, a small smile tugging at my lips. And I'll move forward. We both need to. As I walked away from that meeting, something inside me finally clicked. I wasn't holding on to the past anymore. I was ready to move forward, into whatever came next. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.